Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the support of the channel. As always, Jer1413 and his Chrysler K on Himmels, Live Oaks Dorf sent me this replay in and said, hey, Guido, take a look at it. Is there anything I could have done better to win? So right along with me, you guys. Check it out. Let me know down below what you think about it as well. And give Jer some tips if you see any of them along the way. So he is middle tier in a tier 8. He's got 7s below him and 9s above. That's math. 7, 8, 9, right? 7, 8. That reminds me of a joke, actually. What is it? How does that one go? Why was how does that go? Why was 10 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9, right? Is that how it goes? Something like that. Dad joke. All right, so we have headed over into the heavy area, or what would be considered the heavy area, I think, by a lot of people up in the northwest corner. Just for initial positioning, Jer, I tend to go down on the tracks, so to speak. That wasn't... Anyway, try to keep it PG-13, folks. I usually go to the tracks and do not go to the city. Now, see, now I'm afraid to say things because everybody's mind is in the gutter and they're all laughing at me right now, and it hurts my feelings just a little bit. Anyway, the point of that is I typically go down to the tracks. It's not savable. It isn't savable. Even with the so to speak, it's over, folks. It's unable. All right, so the no so to speak zone. Why? Because I find the tracks to be the more critical terrain. Howsoever, the Chrysler K is not really great down the tracks, right? We've got a tank that is a rear-mounted turret. Actually has decent depression for a rear-mounted turret, as you can see right there, but it's not great gun depression. It's not super agile. Really, its place to fight, at least where it's more comfortable, is where it can side scrape and fight in a city area. So this is where Jer has gone, and so that's fine. Took a long time to sort of discuss the initial positioning. He's out in the lead. I would agree with this to not go blazing across that opening right there. You really could get yourself in some trouble. Let's talk about this side scrape here. I think the better way to do that is to tuck your front end into this building here and side scrape out to the left, because you're really just asking them to shoot you in the front right there. And I'm probably not going to be able to adjust it with the buildings around and the camera the way it works. But if you're angled out the other way, that's probably a better way to do it. 2 cents. 257's going in, Tiger 1, HTC are all pushing in, and Jared's going to kind of follow these guys up. Kind of comes around a corner, and he's thinking about shots on something like this guy. Goes after the hatch, which is good. Kind of interesting. I don't know if maybe the Pipper was fighting with the terrain behind it or the building. It was weird how it kind of jumped around right there. Okay, there we go. Another bounce. And your team is pushing in and starting to take them on. Notice down on the tracks, it's not looking too bad, but your team is on its back foot. You can see that they're kind of defending the back edge of this hill right here, the north edge back slope, and the purple team has taken that entire area, and that can become very dangerous if they beat your campers and move in behind you. Now you are flanked from both sides. So nice job here. I like this little shot into his turret. And then we're going to go ahead and start side scraping potentially against the Suma. And as I watched this the first time, the first thing that came to mind was maybe a little bit more aggressive in the city to help these guys shut down the tanks that are in the city. You have a big overmatch, and you've got some aggressive players that are really keeping them busy. And you spend a little bit of time in here kind of looking around for a shot, being very careful. I'm not saying go balls to the wall and absolutely throw away your tank. I'm just saying potentially here, if we zoom out, we had maybe an option to come over to this corner right here and side scrape out and shoot the Lurva. Now you did find a shot on the 25T, so that's fine. Or even potentially after the Lurva shoots to cross over to where the 257 is and maybe come up to this corner right here and side scrape. So it feels a little bit like you're just, or a lot of it, like you're just a little too far back and not really as aggressive as you might want to be. I say that because in this situation you have such an overmatch, at least as far as it appears in the city, that taking down the city defenders as soon as possible will give you more options in terms of deciding what to do next. And it's still happening pretty quickly, which is nice. Now let's just pause it here. I want everybody to take a look at what's going on over here. Okay, specifically down, how do I, in the south anyway, down in the southeast. Really over on the whole east side at this point, because they broke through, didn't they? Yes, they did. On, they push in. There's three. There's another char. There's only a couple tanks defending from the green side. The JP is the only kind of backup sniperino. Everybody else is out in the city. Once the Suma's down, then we have to look at the number of tanks and go, well, that was good. We've killed 4 of them. Fantastic. But that's not a huge lead. That is not a Rompelstomp. And my flank is in trouble. My other side, the cap, is in trouble. So yes, we're about to win this, but they do have a fairly significant stopping force hanging out in the middle. There's a number of tanks of unknown position. It looks like, the Hori hasn't been spotted. An entire Chieftain hasn't been spotted. The Scorpion, AMX-46, and the Hellcat. None of these guys have been spotted, so they could be just about anywhere. So they're either pushing in with the collapsing flank over there on the east side, or they're probably camping at the cap or camping about where the Tortoise is, so they're going to be trouble. That means that even if I clean up this Suma quickly and I push, I'm going to deal with a shooting gallery over here with the Tortoise anchoring it and a couple other good tanks potentially, and then back up down here in the south. Meanwhile, my cap is being crushed. So this is a fairly classic example right here of, yes, we won the flank and we've created an advantage. We can actually turn this into a bit of a disadvantage by not reacting appropriately to what's actually happening in the game. So the Vipera dies, and even further, and it seems to me as I watched you play this that potentially you were kind of thinking that way, but there were still some shots here. Guys were starting to push, and I don't want to put thoughts in your brain, but it seems like at least for the moment you're still considering pushing in, and based on what I'm seeing you do here, this is what it looks like. We're just going to kind of push down to this low ground. And then maybe somewhere around here you're starting to think about it, or maybe you've seen it. And just like that, fellas, we have pretty much an even game. It's 4-3 in terms of tanks dead. We've won a flank, they've won a flank, but whose cap is in more danger right now? Ours, by miles. So really, back here, about that time I was talking about initially all that, before you busted through these buildings and headed south, I would have crossed over here behind these buildings, maybe even fallen back, and I'd be heading back up here into my own cap. And this seems to be the general direction you're going. You're also taking shots while going and doing that, and that's not bad because you do have some guys hanging out. But every moment you don't get somebody back there to help them, that is just more of your own team dying off. So there goes one. Also, we're kind of out in the open. Good shot right there, by the way. Getting hit by that Super Hellcat. So there's some hit points we didn't really need to take, in my estimation, if we'd have actually left earlier and used some of these buildings as cover. Honestly, that is probably the biggest thing in terms of what happens with this game. Is that, first off, this giant push by your team is just wholly foolish. There was no reason to really leave the cover of these buildings while your cap was getting crushed and captured. Honestly, you can just hang out in these bushes and keep these dudes from pushing in. A couple of you fall back over here where you're going, or maybe even down this ridge, and start shooting up these dudes who have pushed in, who are probably more than likely wounded. Usually when there's a Zerg rush like that or a push, and you had a decent amount of tanks, and you had some back there, they usually beat them up pretty good. So now you're looking to clean up their aggressive players who pushed into your campers. But unfortunately, your entire team just isn't doing that. And they're kind of glomming onto the Tortoise. And I think he actually survives this. Let's watch what happens. I don't remember. No, he doesn't. He does not even, it's not even close to surviving it. He dies literally 0.5 seconds after I said that. All right, so you come up to this point, and that's okay, but they're all outside of your spotting range. For me, in these situations here, what I'll do is, especially if I still have a guy lighting, I will drive into where I have them inside my draw ring. That's the outside ring right here, fellas. Till they're inside draw range, and see if I can't take a couple sniper shots with the intention of, as they kill off that guy and start filtering towards the west, then I'll fall back to a position like this, which is a nice position. So maybe you kill one, maybe you take a couple shots, that's just free damage while your guy who's dying gets lights. It's not a for sure thing because there are a lot of buildings over here, but potentially in some of these openings and cracks you might be able to start getting shots. Good news for you, at least a little bit of good news, is that you do have 3 other teammates who sort of figure it out, and then your team starts pushing in. And now just watch them all die as they push in right there. They all start getting beat up. The 257, I believe, actually makes it to the cap, But you have to ask yourself, folks. I mean, I'm going to pause again. Just look at the situation on the map. How many times have you been here? How many times have you been the 257, the 1357F, or the T95? And for me, a lot of times, if I end up doing something like this, and I do it less than I used to, it's typically a situation of lost SA in terms of I am looking through the soda straw. All I can see is the flank I'm winning. I'm going to the cap. I have people with me. Let's do this thing, right? Ride to the Valkyries. We're about to win. But the problem is you're not paying attention to the whole picture. And the whole picture is their aggressive players are over here. You know where their good players are? And this is not necessarily 100% true. But in general, their good players are all over here going after your cap. Their bad players are sitting in bushes and hiding. Why feed bad players shots they don't deserve? Campers and bad players. Now, sometimes guys will fall back and they're quite good indeed, but usually the guys sitting around way in the back of the cap are your bad players. And even if they are good players, there's no sense in feeding them all these hit points before you deal with their aggressive players, all right, or the guys who are actually a threat. So the AC-48 is sort of pushing in a little bit. You're in a bit of trouble because you don't have a lot of good spotting, and right now I wouldn't suggest, after having waited this long, driving out into the open and letting them have shots. One thing to think about here as well, Jer, is this big barn is destroyable. If you pop yourself in some HE, you can start dropping that down pretty good and get that out of the way, because right now it's blocking, right? Look at the, so here it is. If you look at the line, the north part of the cap is covered, as well as some of the buildings back here. You're never going to be able to get a shot on them because it's blocked by this. And you figure it out after a while. You start shooting it down, but it's a little bit late. 1357's pushing in the 257, and they're all yelling, "I'm capping, I'm capping." Now they've got two guys on there. And the big problem here, a lot of times with your teammates that are pushing their cap, they start to see that the cap is happening, and they start to panic a little bit, and they like, oh, I got to cap, or I got to push, or I gotta push and kill their guy so we can cap. And now, so they start making foolish decisions because, while I don't think cap pressure is as important as some people do, situationally it's extremely important. Like your green buddies down here are thinking, oh crap, we're getting capped, so let's just drive and get on the cap and see if we can make this thing happen. Just think if you had the 257 and the Tiger back with you, or maybe the 257 and the Tiger and the T95 sat back over there on the ridge and kept them from pushing into your 6 o'clock. This could have been really good. It's actually going okay right now. And honestly, Charfutures are what's going to kind of crush y'all's life right here. This was kind of interesting how this AC just sort of blocked the shots on the BZ. And now we got to futz around trying to get a shot on this guy. And he's just barely moving forward enough that you can get into that front left road wheel, or maybe into the lower tank. You get a nice shot right there. Well done. Nicely timed as he's rocking back and forth. This is one of those be patient things. Yeah, just line it up and then kill him. Oh, that sucked. That's where dispersion has a vote. Guy's rocking back and forth potentially. I did check and see if you could see the back of him. Good shot there. But he never actually backed out enough, from what I could tell, for you to get a good shot. All right, let's now pause here. So we have dealt with the cap. Notice the 257's on cap, but unfortunately he's beat up, and the rest of your buddies are dead down there. T95's sitting there on the hill. You have a T54 with very few hit points, trying to take on a very high hit point, according, at least in relation to the rest of you here. Chieftain, who finally has showed up. That's everybody spotted, minus the Scorpion, by the way, which hasn't been spotted. And a near-dead AC-48, and there's a Char right there. All right, so once we get past the idea of maybe a little late coming back, maybe not quite aggressive enough to push forward and see if you can't sneak a few shots in right there, maybe not prepping this quite enough to get shots. You did a nice job with the decap with the rest of your team. And then so the next thing to think about is, all right, what do I have to do here? How do I break us open a little bit, create an advantage for us? What are the necessary requirements to start knocking these guys down? And one of the biggest advantages they have is these daggum Charfutures who have really good spotting, good speed, auto loader, blah, blah, blah. And you have one right here, right? In fact, I think you might even have a shot on him right here. You do. And you don't really notice that you're messing around with that guy. And that's an easy one to miss, guys. So he's the dude that actually lights you. And he gets a cross right there. So we're screwing around with this dude. We don't even really notice. And that's about where I think you notice the Char. All right, for me, immediately I charge that char and I try to get rid of that guy. I realize there's a Hori. I realize there's another char. There's somewhere there's a Scorpion G. But at this point, it requires a little bit of gallantry from your side to try to figure out how do I kind of turn this thing around. And the big key right now is getting rid of that guy because he is spotted. You know where he is. You have the hit points, and if you can shut him down, he no longer becomes a factor later on. He just really is kind of cruising around right here. He actually knocks a tree down, but he doesn't come around the corner. Looks like you're kind of waiting for him. And we back out, right? So really, I think you really needed to get in there and find that guy. And I would have used the middle road because at least there's cover on left and right. Yeah, there's openings, but it's a harder shot. Push in, try to find him, push right out, kill this guy off. Because what's going to happen here is the char's going to find a shot on the back of the T-54. And we just get really overly passive right here. But now we're kind of falling off into a serious problem because the 257 just died. The Hori takes a hit. That's nice. And this guy sort of loses his mind. He just comes out. I don't know what he thinks he's doing right here. This is pretty crazy, but you get some nice shots. So good reaction to what's going on there. You pop him. You use that cover in case he decides to turn. He does not. He's still moving, so I like this. Just set up for that nice lead fire shot. Boom. Down he goes, and good kill. Unfortunately, your T-54 buddy, Spotter, just died right there. All right, so now we've got ourselves into this position. We were not able to kill off the char footer. We weren't able to react earlier. That's all fine. We find ourselves in this position. What do we have to do? Dude, we got to get back to our T-95 and somehow work with him. Okay, he's got the big fear gun. If you're close enough that you can shoot things that are trying to shoot him or circle him, then you're doing some good work and helping out. And what we do instead is, for some reason, we just sort of hang out in this little spot here. We move. We get a little bit wary of what we're doing. Maybe change our mind. Worried about somebody charging us and getting around beside us, and kind of back out. Okay, so we found some cover and we're backing away and getting kind of further away from the T-95. And then we sort of go forward. And be honest, you'll have to let us know down in the description, down in the comments. I'm not really sure what the plan is here, if anything. Maybe looking for the char who was in the middle, see if we can catch him out, but that doesn't work. This is a dangerous spot to be. You know, if that chieftain gets sight of you, he can shoot straight down here. There's bushes for him to get covered in. Then you're spotted. Then the char comes in from the other piece of city here and gets behind you. Just real bad juju in this particular spot. So going back and falling back, not next to him, right? You don't want to be just next to him, but you want to be close to him. And had you been close to him, he kills the first guy, but the second one is in on the T-95, man. And had you been over there, again, another opportunity to shut down the 342 hit point char. So we sort of look for it, and I'll be honest, I'd have kept pushing right here. I'd have absolutely, once I saw him going for the T-95, I'd have kept pushing down this road. This building would have been in the way maybe a little bit as well, but you wanted to uncover him from any of his cover and shoot him as soon as possible. So again, a little bit of hesitation, and now we're down to a 3v1. And honestly, at this point, a lot of things have to go well or correctly or lucky for you. You do get spotted. I see you charging the Char Future. That's absolutely what I would do. He's quite fast. Pay attention to where he is on the minimap, and then just sort of extrapolate where he could be. We don't quite catch him. I think he went down into that middle pit. So I'm looking at this, and I go, all right, I cannot let people be on two sides of me. So I am going to push. For me, for Guido, I'm going to push right for this ditch, and we're going to go try to get rid of this char. And if I can kill the char in the ditch, now I own the ditch, and I can use it as a defensive position, potentially, and punish people trying to get at me. What I can't do is hang out in the middle here and allow the chieftain to get behind me, the scorpion, wherever the hell he is, to get on the side. And I already know the char is hiding out in this ditch, and there's bushes he can pop up and either pop me or spot me with. So I can't hang out here. It is not an option. We come up over top and we find the Scorpion G. Okay, fair enough. We shoot him with a nice little shot there. He misses. All right, great. Well, shoot. All right, now we're at this position. And it turns out maybe he'd have showed up behind us as we were pushing into the char, but at least we might have been able to kill off the char and not be in this kind of crossfire situation. So here comes the Scorpion. I'd have jammed on the brakes and backed up. I felt no reason to let the char get shots. Then the chieftain, of course, shows up. So now we have a good idea where they all are. I have a char over here. I've got a chieftain somewhere over in there, although he didn't get lit when he hit me. And then the scorpion rolling around. At this point, it's pick your poison. Go after one guy or the other. And really, from a standpoint of fighting three guys, you do a not bad job right here, but you got yourself into a square corner by not pushing into one area or another. I think you missed this shot. That really sucked. And interestingly, he was not exactly where I thought he was, right? So I don't know if he moved while you were going around the other side or if that's where he actually was. So that may have been very interesting if you'd have pushed for that pit. Trying to figure it out. Yeah, maybe just charge for the scorpion and the char. But you're doing a good job. You're using the armor that you got there. That's making it difficult for the two dudes in front of you. But of course you know the other guy is about to show up. He's got to be. They've had you locked down for a while, so we'll push in. We'll try to figure out, where is this fella? Oh, okay. That's interesting. He got over there. You shoot him. He gets a piece of you. I might have just pushed at the char. I'll be honest with you. I think I probably would have just pushed at the char right there and maybe try to kill him. Yeah, he might have got a shot on my lower plate, but maybe I kill him and maybe I get down the low terrain and I can continue to fight. Looking for one more shot. We kill him. All right, fantastic. Making a runner. The only advice I can give you right here against someone like that is to put an angle like that on them and maybe rock back and forth and try to entice them or make them shoot you in the side and get a bounce if possible. More than likely, they're going to shoot you right in that big flat back anyway. Not a whole lot you can do. But I wouldn't give them a nice flat side. There wasn't a whole lot you were going to do about that. But it was nicely done overall, though, man. 3,781 damage. You got 3 kills out of it. I think there were a couple critical points in there. We talked about the initial deployment. If you'd have been on the other side, would that have changed things? Maybe, actually. To be honest, you didn't contribute that much to the win up in the northwest. All right, yes, you did some damage and that did help, but you weren't the main driving force because you were kind of hanging back. Potentially, maybe going down to the tracks may have helped stuff them a little bit longer or even stop them if you had a nice heavy down there with good armor and you were on the backside. You were a much harder thing to push into and kill than what was over there. So that's one option. The other option is be a little more aggressive up here in the northwest with the rest of your pushers. I'm not saying overextend, but get in there and kill them off. And then you kind of needed your team to help you, and you were a little late yourself in reacting, potentially moving in a bit, getting them into draw distance, looking for some shots, and then backing out. And from there, it was I needed to kill that char to try to get rid of him. Notice he was a huge issue later on right there. And then once we got past all that, falling back to your T95 so you could actually support the guy and maybe even kill the other char before he was able to kill off the T95. An entirely different game if you and the T95 kill those 2 chars and you're both still in the game against the chieftain and the scorpion. All right, there you go. Lots of different options. Not saying either one of those is a 100% win, but we want to take a look at all the things that happen in the game and see what the possibilities are in terms of debrief. That's all I've got for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you.